Hey, what's up, world, and welcome to the Take One Podcast, episode 118. I am your host, August C. Jones, and so in this podcast, we got just quite a few things to talk about today. Some stuff that had dropped recently as last week. I wanted to do a podcast, but I didn't get able to, so I'm putting everything up in here. As well, I'm going to talk about the box office, and I'm going to do some movie reviews and stuff of that nature. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So, right off the bat, it came out last week that James Gunn had got rehired after being fired by Disney last year around the time of Comic-Con because of some decade-old tweets that he had put out that were kind of insensitive to pedophilia, rape, and so on and so forth. And so basically Disney stated out that they just found out about this and that they, let him go because of it, because of just the way the society and this culture works. And everything is revolving around some Trump tweets that he had put out, and that some, people that were for Trump supporters or whatever had found these tweets and made them public, even though they were already public. Now, I've already gave my stance on how I felt about the whole situation, and with Disney more than likely knew, and if they didn't, then where I stood at. And basically where I stand out with this whole thing is that it's like I feel like I'm okay with it. I really am. I'm okay with it. I don't think it was anything truly bad. It was just bad taste. It was just his humor and how he does things. And it was like, not everybody get that type of humor. I know I certainly didn't. I don't, or whatever, but it was kind of in bad taste, in poor taste or whatever. But that was a long time ago, and of course he is a new person now, and so certain things can be forgiven. I mean, a lot of times with, companies, it's all about an image, whether it's the image of the person that's representing it or just the image of the company. And that's what Disney got to look to, because you got to look at it. Disney got a lot of stuff on their hands. They got a lot of properties. They're family orientated, as well as the Fox acquisition that is basically about to go through in like a day or so. Not too long. We are only some hours away from it actually going through, about a day or so from the time of me recording this. So, I mean, it's like, I'm not against it. I'm not a person that think that he should stay fired and this and that, because Lord knows that he wasn't going to stay unemployed. He already got his producing credit on, what is it, Brightburn, which actually looked like a really good movie. And then he was signed on by Warner Brothers to do Suicide Squad 2. So he's already got that in the can, and so now he's brought back, and we've known that, it's basically been brought out that anything, I guess you can expect anything that from casting of characters in a movie or whatever. A lot of times this stuff is months in the making, and then a person could be on for a character weeks or months prior, but then get released now. And that's the same with this, is like, this was months and, them going in, having talks and everything else. And he basically been brought back. They just really made it publicly official that he is back, and he is, doing his thing he is about to do his thing with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But because of his prior commitment to Warner Brothers and DC's Suicide Squad 2, he's going to handle that first, and then after that, he's going to jump right on to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and finish that on. So we more than likely can kind of gather that it's right back on the plate of Marvel's movies ever coming out, because even though we only have like a handful of movies that or not even a handful, just like a few movies that we know are for sure were going to be made, even though they haven't put out their slate of movies that's coming out after Far From Home. We already know that Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, and now we can add to that for sure that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is coming after that. Not real soon, as in like next year, maybe the year after, if everything goes together, but we know that it is going to be part of the new slate. And so It is for sure. So more than likely, Batista is gonna come back as a Drax, and everybody else is gonna reprise their role. Will Gamora come back? We don't know. I don't know anything. But in any case, when it comes down to it, I'm down with it. I really don't have no real hard stance against it. But hey, if they feel like it's the right thing to do for their company, it's only going to up their stock, especially if it's the best one out of that franchise. And then if he does well with the Suicide Squad 2, they probably might bring him on for part 3. So it only ends well for James Gunn. He can only go up from there, and hopefully later on he doesn't do anything, and this kind of like makes him more cautious to what he puts out there, in the atmosphere. So that was my thoughts on it. And so moving on to the next thing, we're gonna talk about the Avengers Empire cover. Now, I ain't got too many like huge thoughts on it. I'm gonna try and just get through it real quick. But I mean, so recently the new cover of Empire came out, which displays the Avengers Endgame and have everything up in there, and one cover has the original OG team of Avengers on the cover, and that is including Hulk and not just puny Banner, and it looks pretty good. And then we have another cover that just has Thanos on there and his armor and and stuff like that. So with the thoughts that I had prior to this, as Thanos haven't really been featured prominently up in like the trailers that have been given out so far of Endgame, I myself, as well as a lot of people, will probably tend to think that he doesn't have a big role in the movie. He probably is in there for maybe about 30 minutes at the most, and then that's it. But with them showing a lot more Thanos when it comes to the promotion and just the stuff that they're putting out, it gives us a sense that he has more of a bigger role in this movie, especially with the Empire cover with him with his armor. You gotta think that he is in the fight scene, because we seen the concept art beforehand last year with all the Avengers in their new kind of like quantum suits and stuff, and then you see Thanos with his new weapon and everything else, that he has some type of major, action scene in here where he is fighting the Avengers, which sounds awesome to me. It just sounds completely awesome. I'm very curious as to what all entails with, everything with like what he does in this movie. Like, what's his role? Is it the prominent role kind of like it was in Infinity War? Because the Russos and Feige have came out and said that basically like his job was done. Like he set out to do what he wanted to do. He did it, and that's basically it. So it's like, what really is his role? And with rumors about it being another villain, so it's like, who is the other villain? Like, this movie is shredded in so many mystery, or shrouded in so much mystery, that it gives us the wondering eye. But getting back to the covers, they look good. There's nothing truly special about it. The only thing that's really kind of telling about the movie is the Thanos cover, because before, like I said, we didn't know if he had a big role, but now it kind of shows that he has a decent sized role in the movie, and we can expect, I ain't gonna say a crazy amount. I would be surprised if he was all through the movie and all the way into the end, and however it resolves. But he has more of a major role than a lot of us anticipated him having in this movie, from just the comments of the filmmakers and just all that we've seen. But since we're starting to see a little bit more, even like the shot in Empire where it shows Thanos, it shows the whole land, and it shows Thanos looking upon the land, and you can see his scarecrow with his armor on it. You can see it. It's like they're trying to incorporate him more into the marketing. So I don't know if it was just a marketing ploy to get people to be like, okay, Thanos is in this movie. I want to see him get, his. I want to see him get it coming, blah, blah. And then when we see the movie, he's only like 5 minutes of the movie. Or does he play a really big role in this movie? So that's the only thing that truly stands out about it. The covers look nice, but it really doesn't do anything. I'm already excited for the movie. I simply cannot wait. So moving on out of movie news, and let's jump into the next segment, which is the box office. And so for those who are new and don't know how I do the box office, it's simple. I go over last week's prediction for this past weekend, what actually won the weekend, the movies that are coming out, and then give my predictions for this coming weekend. And so with that all out the way, let me go ahead and get into what I predicted last week. I predicted that Captain Marvel was going to come in at number 1, Wonder Park was going to come in at number 2, Dragons 3 was going to come in at number 3, Madea Family Funeral at number 4, and 5 Feet Apart at number 5. And I wasn't that far off, because Captain Marvel did come in over the weekend with 69.3 million, taking the number 1 spot, which domestically brings its total to 266 million, and worldwide brings it to 760.2 million. Wow. It's coming in second place over the weekend was 16 million with Wonder Park, and at number 3 was 5 Feet Apart over the weekend, taking in at 13.1 million. Dragons 3 over the weekend took in 9.3 million, which brings his world total to 466.5 million. And Madea Family Funeral over the weekend took in 8 million, and that rounds up the top 5. Captive State, which was another film that came out this past weekend, came in at number 7 though, with 3.1 million. And I really didn't think that was going to make it into the top 5. It just didn't have that much buzz, or like it have like, you got John Goodman up in there, and you have Vera Farmiga up in there, but they're not like names they like when you hear it, you grab it, and then it just really wasn't advertised like like Us, or a movie like that. So I don't think the studio thought it was gonna make a great amount of money, so not enough marketing went into it. So I didn't think that it was gonna hit the top 5. What stands out to me, I'm still kind of amazed at Captain Marvel, but as of right now, I'm not. At this point, it's going to reach $1 billion. It's no point about it. It's almost getting to the point of, Wonder Woman's, what Wonder Woman capped off at with the worldwide total. I think she capped out like 830 something. Don't quote me, but it's 800 and something million that it capped out at. And Captain Marvel is almost there. A few more weeks before the end of his runtime, it's going to hit $1 billion. It's not going to do like Black Panther numbers, but it will hit the number. I don't even know if it's going to catch Aquaman, but I know it's going to reach $1 billion. If it's just over it, it's going to reach it. Wonder Park, I didn't think, I kind of figured it would take the number 2 spot because of just, it's a kids movie. So a lot of parents will be wanting to take their kids to go see it. More than likely, they already took them to go see Captain Marvel. And if you didn't want to take them to go see Captain Marvel, then, you go take them to go see Wonder Park. And, it was advertised enough to where it can get the kids' eyes on Nickelodeon, and stuff like that. So I kind of figured it would be high up in the food chain. I didn't think that 5 Feet Apart was going to make it as high as it did. I did put it at number 5. I thought it was going to be at number 5, but it ended up proving me wrong, that being at number 3. The thing is, that's really all that kind of stands out to me. But I also I'm going to do a comparison as far as like Madea. So looking at the numbers of Madea's movies, right now, it's like I don't think Madea is doing that well as far as all the movies. Well, it's actually doing pretty decent, but looking at the other films, I guess you could say is in the average of what it usually makes worldwide. And the movie just came out, so it still has a little bit more money to make, but I don't think it's gonna make too much money after that. I haven't heard too many people speaking about this movie or anything like that. I've heard people talking about that they are gonna go see it, but I haven't heard too many people coming out of it saying that it was great, it was good, blah blah blah. But yeah, so just coming out of it, Madea goes to jail. These are all the Madea movies. So Madea goes to jail. Opening weekend was 41 million, and yeah, looking at the opening weekend for Madea Family Funeral was 27 million. So I mean, it was a little bit lower than that. So I kind of see where people is kind of like veering off of Madea, and you can kind of see it, but then it kind of goes up the next time because the opening weekend for Happy Family, Medea's Happy Family was 25 million. And then after that, Witness Protection was 25.3 million. So that was kind of within the same route. 16 million for Madea Christmas. So that kind of went down, but then it went up with Madea, with Madea Halloween. And the opening weekend was 28.5 million. So I don't know, like I'm seeing like a range that these Madea movies do, you know, and they kind of start out around the same area and end off around the same area, because I'm looking at it and Madea Goes to Jail worldwide total is 63.3 million. Happy Family was 54.1 million. Witness Protection was 66.8 million. And this is all worldwide. Madea Christmas 53.3 million. Boo Halloween, the first one, was 74.8 million. And then Boo 2 was 48.3 million. And then Family Funeral right now was at 59.7 million. So it's kind of like, I guess you could say this is where they kind of, if they would kept going with the Madea movies, I don't think that they should expect anything more from Madea, you know. And it's like, it's not, looking at it as like sad. It's like they got their they got their like place that they want, that they know that they're going to, you know, be at. They're gonna have their fans. You know, you're gonna have people, when Tyler Perry is attached to it, they're gonna go see it. Medea's name in it, they're gonna go see it. You're gonna get those fans. But I'm looking at the numbers, I don't really see too many fans coming out there to really boost the numbers up, because to look at all these films and all of them are, I guess you could say, kind of successful. It's like, I don't know. I feel like these movies should be doing better, but I'm glad that he is stepping away from Madea and ending the whole Madea thing. When it first began for me, Madea was kind of like a character that was kind of unique to him, and it was cool. He could do everything he want with it and all that stuff. But just looking at it, it's like, it's only so much stuff that you can do with Madea. It just, you know, sooner or later you're gonna hit a wall, you know. And sooner or later, like, people are going to get tired of Madea. And I think it's around that time where, when you look at these numbers, you see that Madea is not going to go any further than this. You know, Madea movies only do a certain amount. If you want to make a decent amount of money from Madea movies, yeah, release one. But none of these movies are going to do over 100-something million. And that really is saying something. You would think that at least one or two of these Madea movies would have done worldwide at the end of its run 100-something million. But I mean, I don't think a lot of these hit like overseas or, you know, worldwide. Majority of everything that it makes is like in-house, like the US. So I mean, I think it's a great thing that he is in the Madea. I mean, I'm not saying it because I'm not truly a fan of Madea, but I'm just saying because it gives him more leeway to do something different than what he's normally been doing. And he's been tied to Madea. Medea's been tied to him. Now he breaks that tie and he can do other things. If he want to do an action film that is a Tyler Perry movie, he could probably do that. Maybe direct it, maybe even star in it, you know, and do other things rather than these dramatic type films. And though that's just his niche, But I would love to see Tyler Perry do something out his wheelhouse. Maybe a horror film. Maybe something that, Jordan Peele does. Now, you could probably look at it as like, he's probably, when it comes down to it, he probably won't do it as good as Jordan Peele or maybe another director, but at least trying is the best that you could do. I don't know. Maybe he'll end up doing it and knocking it out the park. So I don't know. But yeah, that's my whole thing of just comparing the whole movies. It's really nothing just to give off about it, but hey, it's whatever. But speaking of Jordan Peele, a new movie is coming out this week, which is the second movie written and directed by Jordan Peele, which is the movie Us. Now, it is a horror thriller, and it is starring Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke. And I guess they got tired of watching people just dust away without anything to do about it, so they made their way to the U.S., started a family, and ran into some doppelgangers, which they come across in this movie. And basically, speaking of that, this movie is about when the Wilson family goes on a getaway to connect with family friends. They run into a family of gruesome doppelgangers that threaten their lives, and they have to try to survive it. And this movie is rated R with a runtime of 1 hour and 56 minutes. It's a movie that I am definitely checking out, with it being at 100% so far right now on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's only getting closer to its opening day. I'm pretty sure that it may end up going down maybe 1 or 2% or percentage, but still in the same sense, 100%, 99, 98% is still a good percentage to be at when you're talking about movies, because a lot of movies try to do that. Even some of the best movies that you might think is like a masterpiece may not even have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, but somehow Jordan Peele was able to do it twice, with 2 movies in a row. Even though the first one didn't stay at 100%, it's more than likely this movie isn't going to do the same. Still, at one point, both of these movies are at 100%, and this is his first and second movie. So, hey, I mean, where can you go wrong? But I mean, I think it's gonna do better than Get Out, because of coming off the success of Get Out, even though that was like what 2 years ago. Yeah, like 2 years ago. I think that a lot of people are really anxious and kind of curious to see what this movie is about, especially with it being the guy who was behind Get Out. The opening for Get Out was 33.3 million, so I think it's going to end up being a little bit bigger than that. And domestically, it tapped out at 176 million, worldwide 255 million. And yeah, and so the 98 percentage was for Get Out, and then the Metacritic, well, that was Rotten Tomatoes. Metacritic was 84%, and IMDb was 7.7 out of 10 for the ratings. And all these numbers is good. All these numbers is really good. But as far for the weekend, this coming weekend, I don't know. Man, I may end up, matter of fact, let me change my stuff around. I think that, well, you know what? No, I'm going to keep it the same. I'm going to take a gamble. I think that Captain Marvel is going to come in at number 1 again. Us is going to come in at number 2. Wonder Park at number 3. 5 Feet Apart at number 4. And Dragons at number 5. And so with that, let's go ahead and get out of the box office segment and jump right into what's new to rent, own, or stream. Now are 3 movies that are coming out today. And the first movie is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It already was previously on digital. Now it's actually, you can buy the physical copy if a lot of you are still into buying physical copies. There you go. The other movie is Mary Poppins Returns with Emily Blunt, and it is the sequel to the 1964 movie Mary Poppins. And then the third movie is The Final Wish, which is a movie y'all need to just completely stay away. I already got my review on it. I'm going to attach it to this video on my YouTube or whatnot. But just simply look up, if you're listening to this other than, YouTube, because I'm going to put this on Podbean, just go on YouTube under CMJ World, and you will find it under there, under movie reviews or the podcast movie reviews or whatnot. And yeah, you'll hear my critique on it because, man, it's one of those movies. But before we end this podcast, let's go ahead and jump into some movie reviews. And there's 3 movies that I'm going to review today. 2 of them being new, one of them being one of the movies that are coming out today. So let's start off with that. So, Mary Poppins Returns is a sequel to the 1964 original film, but this time with Emily Blunt as the lead role. And after losing his wife a year prior, Michael Banks is on the verge of also losing his family home to the bank that now his current family resides in. And so, Mary Poppins Returns to help the Banks siblings and Michael's children through this difficult time in their lives. And there is a lot to like about this movie. Emily Blunt steals every scene that she's in, and she is awesome in her role and clearly the standout of the whole film. And it's not just because she has a title role, but she just literally kills it. This movie has a lot of charm, it has a lot of heart, it has a lot of humor, and it has nice visuals, and it's a good callback to the original, giving nostalgia for the fans who really like the original. The only drawback for me was that the musical aspect can get a little bit too much as the movie progresses. It may not bother others, but for me, it was just too many songs back to back. But other than that, this movie is harmless. It definitely is a family film where both generations, old and new, can get something out of it. It's a great continuation to the original film, and it has something new as well as keeping the nostalgia feel for the older generation, and it's definitely worth checking out. Whether you want to own it, whether you want to rent it, or whatever stream, you go ahead and do that. I'll give it a 6. Definitely worth checking out. So next is Triple Frontier, which is a Netflix original film, and it stars Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Ben Affleck, Garrett Hedlund, and Pedro Pascal. And this movie is about a group of former soldiers who set out to do a job to ensure them loads of money while simultaneously taking out a drug lord. But then the mission ends up hitting a snag, which in turn forces them to have to fight their way back home. And I love the actors involved in this movie. It's the combination that was one of the reasons they got me excited to see this movie, and all of them did a great job in their roles in whatever it called for. Rather it was emotional, dramatic, straightforward, with a dab of humor, they all did their jobs. And it had great action scenes, and the tone was good, the look of it was good, and just how it was shot, it was really, really good. And they had a theatrical feel to it, and you can kind of get that from the trailer. And that's basically what I said like before when I was talking about it on the podcast. Is just it had a theatrical feel to it that if this was released in theaters, I would have gone to go see it. And I think it was good enough for the theaters. I really do. Surely it really did deliver on it. I mean, it didn't go like balls out or anything like the Fast and Furious movies, but it was one of those movies where it was like, yeah, this was a pretty damn good movie from all basically where they gave us. And with that, I mean, definitely go check it out. It's on Netflix right now. Just released. It's one of their newer 1,000 movies that they're gonna release within the next 2 weeks or whatnot. But it is definitely worth checking out. I definitely would give it an 8. I highly recommend it. It is one of those movies where you would not regret watching it. I really came out of this liking this. I might even just rewatch it again. I really would. Like, this is it calls for a repeat viewing for me. It's not like top of the line or anything else, but I would recommend this to somebody if they were to ask me what movie should I watch on Netflix. This would be one of those movies. It definitely is, especially if you like the actors that are involved, which I know a lot of you are familiar with. Charlie Hunnam, if you watch Sons of Anarchy, as well as Oscar Isaac in the Star Wars films, and he's done some other stuff as well. And then, of course, Ben Affleck, and all of them, like I said, do a really good job. So definitely go check the movie out. And the last movie I'll be reviewing for this podcast is Wonder Part, which is one of the newer movies that just came out this past weekend. And it stars Brianna Densky, Jennifer Garner, Mila Kunis, and Ken Hudson Campbell. And this movie is about June, a wonder-filled kid with a big imagination who created an amusement park called Wonderland with her mother. But when her mother falls ill, June loses that sense of wonder for her creation. Not long after that, on her way to math camp, she stumbles across the real-life Wonderland that is close to its end and must help the animals that inhabit the place to bring it back to its former glory. And first off, let me just say that this movie does have some really good animation. Now, it's not crazy realistic like a Pixar standard, because they have set a big standard when it comes to like their animation and everything else, but it doesn't have to be. It's good nonetheless, and I really did appreciate it, because even just seeing it from the trailer going into the actual film, it was like I like the animation more. Like the trailer don't really sell how good it looks when you see in the actual film. And the voice acting was pretty good. I enjoyed all of it. You get no complaints here. The characters were really likable. It does have that humor up in there. Like, this movie is for kids, but at the same time, I did find a little bit of humor within these characters, and they are likable characters. You do follow along in this journey, them going against the chimpanzee zombies. You know, it's crazy. It's like, it's stupid kid fun. That's basically what it is. But it was enjoyable and everything else. The story did work for me, and how everything went along, and it carries a good message for kids that they can get something from. But essentially, this is a kids movie. Adults can get something out of it, but it's primarily aimed at the younger demographic. It wasn't a movie for me personally. I did like it, but and I do think that it is worth checking out, especially, you know, with your family. But me as an adult, this is one of the movies where it was like, you know, it was okay. You know, as long as my son liked it, you know, I'm good. You know, and that's basically what I got from it. I'll give it a 6. It wasn't one of the best, you know, animated films that you would come across, but it wasn't bad at all, put it like that. So if you have a kid and they want to go see this, go take them, go see it. You know, they're going to end up liking it, even if you don't. But with that said, that ends this episode of the podcast, and I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and I hope to catch you guys next time on the next edition of the Take One podcast. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Hey, before you guys leave, make sure you hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. And you see that little bell? Make sure you hit that to turn on your notifications. That way you'll be notified for anything that appears on my channel. Hope to see you guys next time. Peace out.